Well, thank you for joining me again today. As human beings, we think that we can connect with God. We can just get to know Him as a result of how good we are, how righteous we are. That's something that is prevalent in almost every religion. Do good and God will accept you. But we see in the Bible, all the way back to the book of Genesis, that God's plan was for us to connect with Him, be made right with Him on the basis of belief, faith, trusting Him. Not because of the power of faith itself, but what we believe in. We believe and we trust that Jesus is the sacrifice for our sins. This is in verse 13 here. For the promise to Abraham and his offspring, his descendants, that he would be heir of the world, did not come through the law. It did not come through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. And so here Paul is establishing that fact, and he's mentioning it again. He says, for if it is the adherents of the law, those who kept the law, who are to be heirs and inherit the promises of God, then what would happen? It says faith is null and the promise is void. Faith is null and void to those who would try to get to know God on the basis of faith. But he goes on, he says, for the law brings wrath. Where there is no law, there is no transgression. With the law, with the commandments, with the laws of God, we realize how much we have fallen short of God's demands, God's requirements, and how unrighteous, how unholy, how wicked we are. And Paul has established the wickedness of the human race, whether religious or irreligious. And so with that, we see that we are facing judgment of God. And so he continues, that is why it depends on faith. So it does not depend on our righteousness to be made righteous with God. In order that the promise may rest on grace, God's mercy, God's favor, and it is guaranteed to all his offspring, whether Jews or Gentiles. Not only to the adherents of the law, those who had the law of Moses, but also to the one who shares the faith of Abraham. And that goes to everyone all over the world, who is the father of us all. So this message of justification, being made right with God, not on the basis of observing, keeping the law, but on the basis of trusting God, is made available to everyone all over the world. We who share the faith of Abraham, he is our father. So Abraham, we consider Abraham as our father because we are walking in the footsteps of faith. So today I ask you and I say to you, are you trusting God? Are you believing and living for him and trusting what Jesus did for you on the cross of Calvary? And once you're doing that, you're putting all your faith and confidence in him. You are a child of God. You are a child of Abraham. And you are blessed as a result of that.